folks. Okay, we are in the middle of the Great Sift, and I'm taking a break to do the HD reality check. Why? Because it's time for a good old-fashioned YouTube video response. The feature got eliminated years ago, but that's not to say it can't still happen nowadays. It's a long story. Basically, on the screen we have the introduction to one of Mr. Stoudman's responses that he does. This time around it was to one of my HD reality check discussions from earlier in the series. This was posted in April. I'm just now seeing it in June, and that's because I went looking for fan videos, because I heard some people were doing some of them. So I did some searches and whatnot, and this was one of the results. So yay, cool. Good old YouTube and their automated systems, and not finding out, and basically killing the community by isolating people. The YouTube archipelago, been saying that for years, so therefore I don't expect it to be fixed anytime soon unless the traffic to the site actually starts dropping, which is another discussion entirely. And we're not going to go off on too many tangents here, but basically I want to respond. This was the kick in the ass that it took to get me back into the HD reality check series and start finishing this up. I do have content for 2 great SIFT videos, and by the end of the night there will be a 3rd. So, but all in good time. I am actually view gating the uploads behind certain view or time thresholds to not overload the audience, so to speak. I don't want this to get like BuzzFeed, where you subscribe and boom, tons of new uploads. I don't have time to watch all this. And yeah, I've been through that before. So what I've been doing is I wait until the previous upload gets past a certain view threshold or a certain amount of time has passed before I may queue things up and turn things on a little at a time if I get far enough ahead. But the idea here is to not slam people with a ton of new content at once that they don't get around to watching because they only have time to watch like one thing a night, maybe, or something like that. But anyways, that's another discussion that we don't need to have in this series. So, the HD reality check, we're coming towards the end of it. I think after this, after content is king, which is what I want to talk about today, the only thing we're going to have left to talk about is film grain, and then we can wrap things up. I been slowly working my way through this, and it started in 2015 actually, and congratulations, your loud-ass car is on the internet. It's about that time that folks are going to start doing burnouts on the, not burnouts, but like redlining it. The thing is, you can't drive very fast on those roads, so it's like the kid that saws off his muffler and thinks he has a race car, and he goes redline, vroom, 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 and it's like going 10 miles an hour, like, oh yeah, you're cool. Have fun with that plastic Saturn with no muffler. I almost said no motor there. I was like, wait a minute. Well, they redlined their car enough, they might not have the motor. Alright, enough of the tangents. So Mr. Stoudman, he's a person just like I am. He has opinions just like I do. We're not going to agree on everything. Some of what he said, though, is out-and-out defamation. So we're going to clear that up first and nail that right off the bat by talking about some Blu-ray stuff. So anyways, he said no malice intended in the description, but then came out swinging in the last third of the video, so I'm not really sure what to believe. So let's cover all the bases and shotgun the living crap out of this to get this settled once and for all. First and foremost, Blu-ray doesn't look any better than DVD. I do not believe in that whatsoever. First off, Blu-ray is not a failure. It's an enthusiast format. It looks freaking awesome. It's got a bitrate advantage over most streaming HD, if there even is streaming HD in the first place. But yeah, so this is an enthusiast format. That doesn't make it a failure just because it hasn't sold as much. And it's not a failure. It's just not what the fanboys said it would be. And you can't blame the recession either, because we already know from historical examples of what happened with audio CDs versus MP3s that the highest quality format is not always the most popular. So that's another discussion entirely. Maybe we have a new discussion ad. Video learns lessons from audio, or something like that. But MP3 versus CD should have taught us that the highest quality format is not always the most popular. We'll get back to that shortly, because that's a demographics thing, and that's the crux of what we're talking about today. First and foremost, Blu-ray. The biggest thing that Stoudman missed, whether it's on purpose or it slipped his mind, I don't know. I don't know if he was trying to troll me or not. But when I said that I watched both versions of Star Wars The Force Awakens, and the DVD version was just a little fuzzy around the edges, it was really close together, the big thing that's missing, view distance, view distance, view distance, view distance, view distance, view distance, view distance. Did I mention view distance? I don't mean to get all repetitive, but I can't hammer this home enough. View distance, view distance, view distance.
View distance.
there is hard science behind view distance. When you have 20/20 vision, either because you have it or it's corrected via correctional lenses like a pair of glasses or contacts, there's a certain distance where a certain screen size, you're not going to be able to see the difference between certain resolutions. I even had a link to the article that I was referencing in the description of the video that Mr. Stoudman responded to. Past a certain distance, you stop seeing the additional detail in 4K, 1080p, 720p, right on down the line back to standard definition. If you're far enough away from your screen, it's not even worth it to upscale your DVDs. Have I made that point enough? Is that clear? Is that clear yet? So, in the case of Blu-ray versus DVD, there are two viewing distances that I have with my setup. First is the office chair distance, what you're seeing right now, except maybe more like this if I lean back in the chair. It's roughly 3 feet from a 37-inch screen. It can still see all the extra detail in 1080p. The second viewing distance, indigestion, lovely. The second viewing distance is from the couch, off that way-ish, 9 feet away from this screen, where 720p is kind of worth it, maybe, but not entirely. So, upscale DVD versus Blu-ray, from that distance, it's going to be, you're going to have to look to see the difference. And that's when you'll see the softness around the edges. The screen, the high action screens are going to look kind of crappy. But if I watch the DVD from this distance, upscaled all the heck, as best as I can, it's going to look worse than the Blu-ray from this distance. Not so much from the couch. That's one of the reasons why my Netflix subscription is standard def. I'm a cheap ass when it comes to Netflix. I don't do HD. I do standard def Netflix because Netflix is an inferior experience even to DVD. They still don't have 5.1 surround on a Netflix stream yet? What's the deal, Netflix? Either way. So I just cheap out. Until they fix that, I'm going to be a cheap ass and just go standard def. Simple enough. Some people talk about streaming like it is a replacement for DVD. Not the case. DVD still has some edges to enthusiasts like myself, but only in certain niche situations. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to talking about inferior formats and things like that. So that's the whole thing with the whole that's the thing with the whole combo packs, DVD, etc. Now I suppose I should probably come clean. Yes, I was annoyed by Zara Nizarak's HD Rants and HD Rants 2 back in the day. I thought they were elitist, stuck up, and totally snobby towards Blu-ray versus DVD. That bothered me at the time, and he's still getting trolled about some of this all these years later. I'm going to his comments sections looking for stuff to respond to for this HD reality check, and I'm seeing people giving him the same crap that they gave him years ago. I think an HD Rants 3 is inevitable from him, but I hope that he takes into account some of these more intelligent criticisms of the views he used to have. How do you know if he still even has the views? Anyways, he's more on my side now with whether 4K is worth it or not in terms of being practical versus instantly liking the higher quality, at least on paper, per the numbers, format. It's nice to see him finally come around all these years later, but he's kind of a little more mellow than he used to be anyway, so some of it might have to do with being a parent and raising his daughter and things along those lines, or just plain old age, older, wiser, and mellower. One of those deals. Same deal with me, too. I'm certainly not the firebrand I was when I was turning in my early 20s, back when I first started this stuff, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So yeah, I hope that takes care of it. Now, let's transition into the main discussion by talking about the other thing that Stoudman either didn't acknowledge or couldn't see, but he needs to know about, and so do you, by the way. If you don't study business, this isn't exactly stuff that people talk about on a regular basis. If you don't have a formal background in business, you're really not this isn't going to be in your circles, but it's handy for you to know about. Business, whenever you're dealing with large groups of people, like the general public when you release a Blu-ray, movie, there we go. When you release a movie on a physical or digital format, you always have to answer the demographics questions. Anytime you deal with the general public, you always have to deal with the demographics. Who do you want to attract? Sometimes who do you want to repulse? If you want to sell something specifically to one group of people but not have others buy it for various reasons. A lot of people talk about demographics in terms of attraction only, but repulsion is just as important. People don't talk about the repulsion part as bit because it's not as polite, but it happens. But The big thing that's in play with these combo packs, the big thing that's in play with some of the things that Mr. Stoudman talked about, like people digging through secondhand stores, getting VHS collections even cheaper than DVD. DVD's already dollar store video disc. We're down to DVD prices for dollar store prices for DVDs. VHS is even cheaper. My dad's bragging about that. He's got a 1080p TV now. A Westinghouse, not a Samsung or anything, but it's still 1080p. It's still 1080p. Why doesn't he have Blu-ray? Why doesn't he have even 5.1 freaking surround? He only wanted a soundbar and a subwoofer, and that's it. I gave him a set of computer speakers that do the same thing. He uses the headphone jack on the television, so he can use the TV's remote to adjust the volume. Put the speakers at like 50%, use the TV remote for the rest. Simple. The point is, it's a demographic thing. I'm an enthusiast. He's more the mainstream demographic. What's the difference between us two? The mainstream crowd isn't going to care about quality. They just want to see the content. And that's why you got all these combo packs that are the way they are. It's just a way for someone. It's a way to try and sell that mainstream demographic. Okay, maybe they don't have a working Blu-ray setup. Let's give them a DVD so they can at least see the content. And if they upgrade their equipment later, they won't have to go rebuy this stuff. You know, I talked about DVD being dimwit video disc because for a very similar price, like what, a couple of $1 difference, and that's it. There's a DVD-only version of this that I kept seeing in the stores, and it's that's why I was saying dimwit video disc, because there are some DVD releases nowadays that are absolute rip-offs versus combo packs like this. And Stoudman also mentioned 4K combo packs not having DVDs. Yeah, enthusiasts. Enthusiasts are not going to want a DVD copy along with their 4K. That'd be like if a Blu-ray combo pack had a VHS tape in it. Different demographics. The mainstream crowd will actually still buy DVD and upscale it. There's still upscale DVD players for sale all over the place. DVD is real easy to get into. You don't have to upload to the internet. You don't have to worry about DRM or artificial limits on certain copies and things like that. All the mainstream audience ever wants to do is just watch the freaking movie. That's why they're going into the second-hand stores and nabbing up VHS tapes for $3 for $1, and then they're bragging about doing that. I tell my dad, I'm like, hey, you know, DVD is dollar store video disc. You can get like a movie for like $1, $2. Go to Dollar General, Family Dollar, dirt cheap DVD. Even some of them don't even have cases anymore. They come in those stupid cardboard things. One of the second-hand stores around here, they're flooded with DVDs that won't move right now. They actually had to make it a policy, no cardboard DVDs. No cardboard sleeve DVDs from Dollar General and whatnot, because they're getting flooded with way too many of those and they couldn't move them. So it's just... But content is king. Content is king. Content is king. In the case of my folks, view distance might make it so they can't see the improvements in Blu-ray if they're too far from their screen, and I think their TV is smaller than mine, so they have more of a restriction. With how far away the couch is from the TV, and their TV being smaller, they probably wouldn't be able to see the increase. Even if they wore their glasses, they wouldn't, and their prescription was current, so they were getting the equivalent of 20/20 vision. They will not see all the improvements in Blu-ray over DVD. So they're not in the market for 4K. So if 4K combo packs are 4K plus Blu-ray, no DVD, that's why. Different demographics will buy different things. The mainstream crowd that doesn't care about quality and just wants to see the effing movie is not going to buy a 4K version. That's our job, enthusiasts. People are like, yeah, I'm totally going to get a nicer looking TV at some point. Let's buy the 4K version now, enjoy the Blu-ray, and then when I upgrade, if that becomes more affordable, then I'll have a head start with a couple of movies I won't be rebuying if I want to see them with the increased fidelity or whatever. That depends on the view distance and the screen size, just like 1080p, 720p, etc. did over standard def. But really, content is king is the big thing here. And that's why you have, people are, okay, they're going and buying VHS tapes for like $3 for $1. And if the tapes get chewed up by the VCR after one playthrough, whoop-de-doo, 33 cents. Ooh. Even with the recession, they're not going to miss that. The other thing too that I like to touch on with this whole content is king thing is the whole entertainment floor, so to speak, that has turned DVD into a zombie format as it is with what the internet is going to do. Now, right now, with digital copies, maybe you'll get 720p. Yay! Sometimes you get standard def because the movie studios want you watching the digital copies on your phone or something, where the detail's not going to matter. I'm not happy about that because you can't just say, oh, it's a phone, it's got to be crappy quality. What if, say, the smartphone revolution continues to its logical conclusion, and at some point you have wireless streaming from your phone to your television, a smart TV maybe, in HD. So you watch a movie by loading it up on your phone, putting your phone down, maybe put it in a charger so it doesn't go dead during the movie, and then your home theater system takes the stream from the phone, wireless, near field, whatever, puts it on. Imagine that. This is the kind of stuff that the movie industry, with their kicking against the bricks, hating technology, is holding up with propping up physical media the way they are. At some point, hopefully in our lifetime, physical media becomes a collector's thing, just like Laserdisc became eventually. Enthusiasts who want the nice shiny boxes and are paying a premium for them, that's the thing. And we can have something like Steam, where you don't have to worry about how good does the anti-scratch coating work on the Blu-ray disc in terms of the movie not getting scratched. See, I don't have problems with skipping from scratches on Blu-rays. I have problems with skipping from fingerprint smudges. Just enough to cloud up that surface. Taking a lint-free cloth to it fixes it just like that. But if I have to choose between a nicer looking video that might skip or freeze or what have you because of a fingerprint smudge because I accidentally fingerprint smudged it while handling the disc, or a slightly lesser quality stream, that might actually be a toss-up if the streaming would ever go effing HD and be reliable with a decent bit rate. Some of that's also dependent upon broadband build-out in the United States, if I can say my consonants correctly. Dry air today, sorry folks. Some of that's dependent upon broadband build-out as well, and, quit being embarrassed by the rest of the developed world in that respect. Affordable broadband is not enough, there's just not enough competition in the US. Canada has some of this too, but not enough competition. The ISPs are fleecing the hell out of things, and even the FCC is kind of iffy on cleaning this up so we can actually have some real market competition again, not let the monopolists run away with the 21st century on us here. But it's another discussion entirely. But that's the thing. We're dealing with mainstream demographics here. Content is king. If it was a VHS release of this movie, you'd probably see them pick those up in secondhand stores too, because they don't care about quality. They just want to see the effing movie. In the case of my folks, even if they wore their glasses, their experience is not optimal. The experience is not optimal, even if I were to hook them up with 5.1 surround sound. Because the television goes across, the television's in an old school entertainment center that was originally built for a tube TV, so that limited, I think they have a 32-inch versus this 37-inch that I have here. This, I don't know if this would fit in their entertainment center, because it was designed for a 4.3 tube TV back in the day, like 90s or something. But it's a perfectly good piece of wood, still looks fine, they put some wood polish on it, and so they don't want to get rid of the entertainment center, so they're limited on how big their TV can get. Then you have the view distance, which I can tell you, the living room is bigger than this one is here. So I already can't see all the details. I'm too far away from this screen with my own couch setup. They're guaranteed to not get the full benefit of 1080p unless they put chairs in front of their television and sit really close, which they're never going to do. They want to relax on the couch, which is against the side wall, by the way, so that kills the imaging for the 5.1 surround or even 7.1 surround. So surround sound won't even benefit them. And I think about that, and I think of, someone just comes home, they plop down on their couch that's too far away from the TV they have in order to really enjoy 1080p. What's that going to do to 4K, other than doom it to being either a format that gets sold via snazzy marketing or enthusiast only, just like Blu-ray turned into? So, someone always has to be the voice of reason to mention content is king, because this is a different demographic. Their mindset is different from us enthusiasts. They just want to see the effing movie. Got it? And then there's the baseline of good entertainment that Netflix, the internet, is having on all this. Suppose the industry pulled its head out of its ass and realized that what happened with Steam and PC games could happen with, maybe Ultraviolet will do this at some point. But let's suppose that digital HD at some point meant a service like Steam that applied some DRM but let you watch things in HD if you had the internet for it, if you had the broadband bandwidth for it. You didn't have some stupid ass bandwidth cap or something like that, and you could actually enjoy your service rather than worry about going over the limits of your data plan, which is a pathetic crossover from a pathetic technology known as cellular broadband, which people have on their smartphones standard. Ugh, yuck. If I ever buy a smartphone, it'll be to use it as a smaller tablet on Wi-Fi. I might not even buy service for it. I might actually get a separate flip phone for making calls with. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, ISPs. Phone companies, I should say. Some of the deals that are out there for cellular plans are highway robbery, man. It's, yeah. That's a completely different discussion altogether. But yeah, don't count out the internet. Take a look at what's happening with digital music right now, and consider this. Right now, there are some out-of-print CDs that I can't buy a CD for anymore. I've traditionally been a fan of CDs because, yay, free backup media. That's kind of a toss-up these days. Digital services have gotten to the point, Amazon gets it, digital services have gotten to the point where, just limit the number of computers you can download the tracks on, and then, change out the authorized devices so you never have more than X amount like they did with Kindle. But Amazon Auto-Rip gives me a digital backup of this. If this accidentally gets thrown in someone's bonfire or something like that, I still have the digital version. And it's in my purchase history so I can re-download it and things like that. But the differences between CDs and digital are evaporating, so to speak. I mean, yeah, these were higher quality at one point than what you could buy on iTunes versus the compressed stuff on iTunes. But some of the digital tracks out there nowadays are based on the studio masters, which are higher quality than what CDs are. So the old argument, higher quality if you know how to compress it right, is slowly going away for digital music. And if you really stop and think about it, do you have an optimal listening room experience every single time you listen to your music? The answer is no for most of us, and we don't have a studio with padding on the walls and the whole 9 yards. So the suboptimal conditions that we have may force us to act a little more mainstream than enthusiast with audio. And there's some out-of-print CDs out there nowadays that you can buy digital versions of. The record companies put up some digitized versions of those so they don't have to make new physical copies because it would cost too much. But if you want that old out-of-print CD from 1993 or whatever, you can download digital tracks from it. They just files on a server somewhere. Screw it. Let's put them on sale, like $1 per track or something, and sell them that way. No more physical copies and the fixed costs associated with that. Just put it on the internet somewhere. Let people buy it digitally through Amazon MP3 or something like that. Imagine if that became the case eventually with movies. So more downloads, obviously, which is why the effing broadband infrastructure needs to be built out in this country like it is in the rest of the developed world, even if it takes a public-private partnership in order to do so. Are you listening, ISPs? Probably not. That's the way they usually are. Fat, dumb, and happy monopolists who will fleece us to death until somebody is able to actually break them up. Another discussion entirely. In the meantime, though, I can't emphasize it enough. Content is king. The people that are raiding the secondhand stores and building up ginormous VHS movie collections because it's cheap, they'll do the same with DVD later on eventually. These people think differently than us enthusiasts do. You can't use the same arguments to talk about these people that you would talk about that we use for ourselves. We're different. We have different attitudes. The thing is, though, business is neutral when it comes to the attitudes of the consumer. They just want to sell the effing product. Got it? So how do you sell to a mainstream audience? Stuff like this. Give them the lesser format so that if they ever move up, they ever want to cross the line from mainstream to enthusiast, they have a foot in the door, like Blu-ray and DVD combined together. So I don't expect to see 4K and DVD anytime soon, because 4K is enthusiast, as Blu-ray was and still is. So, and I hope at some point the internet and streaming can be the baseline format rather than DVD. That'll be what eventually kills DVD. When the studios and the movie industry gets their head out of their ass, stops kicking against the bricks, and creates a commercial equivalent to YouTube, or lets YouTube be the DRM for HD copies HD digital copies of movies, use a standardized platform, things like that, then we'll start seeing DVDs be relegated exclusively to the secondhand stores. But until then, if we're going to talk about enthusiast versus mainstream, we got to remember how these people think. And that's one of the things that's keeping DVD around. That's one of the things that has hindered Blu-ray. And that's one of the things that's going to land Blu-ray exclusively as an enthusiast format. And 4K and all this other stuff that looks better. Because us enthusiasts will go to the time to have a setup where we can see the increased detail because we want to see all the eye candy. The mainstream crowd, not so much. I'd even dare say that there's probably schools out there that still have a tube TV with a VCR that they play educational videos on VHS from, and that's what they have for AV setups. It's as outdated as that is. I'll bet it's still going on out there because you don't really have big studio experience when you're a school with a budget that's funded by taxes and stuff. But it's the thing. Enthusiast versus mainstream. You need to take that into account if you want to actually know what you're talking about in these discussions. And with the mainstream crowd, content is king. We saw it with music. We saw it with MP3 versus CD. We will see it with Blu-ray versus everything else. And that, as they say, is that. Now, if you'll excuse me, I do believe I have a great sift to get back to. But I hope this is at least gets the gears turning at least a little bit when it comes to a response to Mr. Stoudemann's discussion about Blu-ray. I'm sure there'll be a big response in the comments later, and I'll check his channel later to see if there's another video response. But check out, if you're into movies and stuff like that, definitely check out his channel. He's part of the Zara and Isaac film crowd. I'm not really as much of a movie buff as some of these folks are, because I prefer video games over movies due to the replay value and stuff like that. But I'd say his channel is worth checking out if you're into that sort of thing. And of course, check out his response to get the context on what I'm responding to and see maybe there's something I can, way I can clear this up even more if he responds again or something along those lines. Until next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.